Hi, welcome to the Poscast. I am Joe Posnanski, and with me is Michael Shore. Michael, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
You are welcome. You are so, you know what? I mean, here's the thing you and I have talked about many, many times. It's baseball season, but it's not baseball season, right? Like until spring training happens and is over, it doesn't feel like baseball season. We've had like technically an opening day, but not really, right? Like, I mean, nobody.
So I was thinking about this recently and it was like, why does this annoy me so much that we do these games overseas in the middle of March and then go back to spring training?
Yeah.
And the reason that the thing that I compared it to is, what if you went to a movie and you were watching the previews, and after two previews, they were like, hey, here's the first 90 seconds of the movie. And they played that, and then they're like, now back to the previews. You'd be like, no, I want to see the real thing.
The previews were over. I'm ready for the movie.
Yeah. And so, like, it was fun that those games were played and everything, but it's just so weird. Everything baseball does is so weird.
It's so
like
weird.
No other sport would ever do this. Start the regular season, and
2
then
weeks
also
before.
Yeah. And then have another 2 weeks of preseason. It's just so weird. And baseball is so, I get it. I get why they're doing it. I get that you can't go to Tokyo in the middle of the season. I get that you have like, expanding the game to East Asia is a big deal, but This is just so annoying.
Well, here's my question for you. This is what I've been thinking about, because I totally agree. And it undercuts opening day. It undercuts sort of it throws all of our schedules completely off, right? It undercuts everything. But here's my question for you. Why do these games have to count? Like, why? I mean, I get it, but like, would it really be a bigger deal? Like, would it be less of a deal in Japan if the Cubs and Dodgers played what they called some sort of, special friendly or something? You would tell those two teams, like, look, you got to treat this game like it matters, right? Like you have to treat it like it matters. But it's not really opening day. Like nothing. Nobody in the country, in our country, in Japan, huge deal. It was an enormous success and an enormous deal. In our country, nobody knew that it was going on. Nobody cared that it was going on. I talked to very good baseball fan friends of mine who were like, oh yeah, I forgot that game was even on. I certainly didn't like wake up early in the morning to watch it. And I totally forgot. And I guess those games count. That's really weird. Like why do those games have to count? Maybe those games don't have to count.
I will say that the fact that they are real games does matter. I think it's like, wow, we're playing real major league games in other countries. I have a solution though.
Okay, let's hear it.
This is not a podcast where we just bring up problems.
We do not. We are problem solvers here on the podcast.
In the major European soccer leagues, they have what are called international breaks,
right?
Because their club teams are playing like normal schedule, and then there are however many international tournaments. There are World Cup qualifiers, there are European qualifiers, there are any number of Champions League tournaments, Europa League, all this stuff, right? So you have what are literally called international breaks, where the club team schedule just stops. The EPL, English Premier League, plays 38 matches over the course of like an enormous amount of time,
right?
Because they're also, in many cases, playing in 50 other tournaments, right?
Yes.
The MLB should do in the middle of the year, they should take an international break.
Absolutely.
So you're going along and you're doing the schedule and you get about halfway through, and then there's a 2-week break.
Yes.
Okay. This is my plan. 2-week break. Now, every team in Major League Baseball goes somewhere.
Right.
So some teams go to Mexico. Some teams go to Panama. Yep. Some teams go to Chile. Some teams go to Australia.
Yeah.
Some teams go to Japan, South Korea. They go to India. They go to England. They go to France. They go to Germany. They go wherever. Yeah. Every single team, all 30 teams, go somewhere and play games. That allows for the teams that go to the Far East you leave right away and you get to adjust there for 5 days.
Yep.
And then you play a series. You play the Dodgers play the Cubs in that series. Meanwhile, while you're waiting for that, the Rays and the Marlins are playing a couple games in Mexico, right? You're playing a 3-game series in Mexico. And then you have, basically every country that loves baseball and supports baseball gets games, real games in the middle of the season in their home. And then, by the way, also, you could arrange that so that the end of that or whatever is the All-Star game.
Right.
So all those teams then come back from where they were, and you play the All-Star game, and then you have 2 days on the other side of the All-Star game, and then you start playing again. Yeah. So I think if you just did that in the middle of the season, these are regular season games. Yeah. These are games that are happening in, right? You do this in, now obviously it gets a little tricky because if you're going to the Southern Hemisphere, if you're going to Australia, it's winter down there, in certain places, but also it'll be fine. Yes. You'll play in a dome, or whatever. And I think if they just did that, you wouldn't have to do this awkward thing where you're both, starting the season and not starting the season, and also trying to say like, hey, hurry up and get ready 4 weeks faster than everybody else, so that you can have your best starting pitcher start meaningful games. And then, by the way, only throw maximum 4 innings anyway, in these games that happen on March 16th because you haven't gone through spring training. Right. So that's my solution. What do you think of that?
Well, I love it, and I would expand on it. I would make it even bigger. First of all, it to me, it solves 3 issues. First issue is, as much as I love the history of 162 games, too many games. It's too many games.
Yeah,
it's just too many games. It is. The season's too long. It's too many games. There are countless issues with a 162 game season that baseball is not dealing with very well, including the fact that they can't keep pitchers healthy and they can't do anything. So that's first of all. Second of all, nobody cares about the All-Star game anymore. The All-Star game has become a big fat zero. So one, stopping in the middle of the year for 2 weeks is fantastic. Okay, so 2 weeks. So what would that be normally? They don't play every game, but 12 to 14 games, right?
11, 12 games.
Right.
Yeah.
You cut that down to 3. Everybody plays 3 games. Every team over those 2 weeks, they only play 3 games. Right. And you expand it so it's not just international. It's also throughout the country in places that never get Major League Baseball.
Yeah, right? Of course. That's the Iowa Dreams game, the Alabama game.
Charlotte, you play a true 3-game series in Charlotte, a true 3-game series in Des Moines, a true 3-game series in Boise, all over the country, right?
Bozeman, Montana gets the White Sox and the Phillies, yeah.
And they count, and the games count, and those are 3 games that you're getting to rest your players because you've got 2 weeks. You get 3 games.
You're calling this, by the way. You're calling this the MLB Summer Barnstorming Tour.
It's the MLB Summer Barnstorming Tour.
The entire league is barnstorming across the country and across the world. You get that's where you get the Field of Dreams game. Yep. You get games that are played in old Negro League stadiums. Yep. You get games that are played in cities that have never had a game before. You go up to you play a game. You know what you do? You play a game in Alaska. Yep. You play a game in Hawaii, right? You do all the stuff that just brings the game. The entire league becomes ambassadors of the game.
Yes, you bring it to everybody so that there's a cool game in London, and there's a cool game in Tokyo, and there's a cool game in South Korea.
And you know what you do? You know how you do this? You literally do a live drawing of who's going to play where.
Yes.
You literally you say we have 15 locations. Yep. And they're up on a map, and you're like, let's see who's gonna play in. What are you guys getting in
Bozeman? Let's pick.
Who's playing in Maui? Let's see who's playing in Maui, and it's here we go. It's the Brewers
and you have live shots of those players hoping that they're playing in Maui. It's like, you're in Anchorage. Sorry,
you do it March Madness style, where you've got reps from each team, or NBA draft style. You've got reps from each team.
Yep.
And they draft.
By the way,
or you could also do it as a draft. They could pick. You could say you have the number 1 pick in the barnstorming draft. Where do you guys want to go?
Well, I even better where you are the higher seed you are, the more likely you are to be in a really cool place.
That's the way to do it. So teams don't tank to get to a free trip to Maui.
This is okay. So we say this all the time, but I would say this surpasses our vegetable basketball team as the greatest idea.
This is the best fix the game idea.
This is by far the best fix the game. So here it is.
Let's just be clear what we're saying.
Yes.
Okay. For because Manfred's going to listen to this.
Oh, for sure. He's already heard it. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's somehow tuning in live, which I didn't know you could do. But this is our plan.
Yes.
We're saying in the middle of summer, dead middle of summer.
Absolutely. Maybe July, exactly where the All-Star game is, spread out 2 weeks.
You're taking a 2-week barnstorming break where every team in Major League Baseball gets perhaps randomly paired up. We're not 100% sure yet. Or you plan it because obviously for the Tokyo series, having the Dodgers and Cubs with all of their Japanese stars made a lot of sense. Like that, But
you're doing this every year, so you're gonna want to mix it up a little.
You're gonna want to choose some for specific reasons and then let some be random.
Yes.
But everyone's going on a barnstorming tour. It's over 2 weeks. The teams will play a 3 or 4 game series in some city that has a reason to host baseball.
Yes.
That could be, we've never had baseball here before ever. This is the first game ever played in Idaho, the first game ever played in Montana, etc. Or it's nations that love baseball in Central America, South America, Europe, Far East, Oceania, anywhere like that. And that's it. On either side of that, 4 games, and those series are spread out. So every series is sort of an event, right? You do it like, it's sort of like, it becomes like the playoffs where like, okay, on the first day of the barnstorming tour, Monday at 12:35 Eastern time, there's a game being played in Curacao.
Yes.
And between the White Sox and the Twins. And then Monday at 4:30 p.m., there's a game being played in Barbados.
Yes.
And then Monday at 7 p.m., there's a game being played in Belize or whatever.
Yes.
So those are the series. And then after that the series in Europe start after a few days that those teams have had a chance to acclimate to the climate.
Right.
After that, series start in Japan and South Korea and Australia and New Zealand and everywhere else. And it's just this rolling thing where there's still baseball every day.
Yep.
You're just making it more like the playoffs where these teams are playing in like Barcelona and it's really fun.
Well, and every day there is baseball being played, but there's not 15 games being played.
It's not 15 games.
That's right.
And but that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it more like football.
Yeah. Well, it would make it, first of all, it would be incredible for television, right? Television would just kill for this, right? Because this is actually like, this is the only game. This is it. It's not like this is just another game. This is the only game that you'll ever see in Curacao or whatever. That's great. Also, you would have it would be great for baseball because you would get all of these cities bidding to be you want to host, right? And everybody could host. Like literally everybody could bid. So you could bid like, hey, we're a small community in Oregon, but we have a great baseball history. We're bidding for this,
Yeah, and you're going to end up playing games in Buffalo, New York, because of that stadium. You're going to end up playing games
in Nashville.
And as part of this, obviously, as MLB has actually amazingly started to do, you use some money and some effort to spruce up old Negro League stadiums in the South and the Midwest. You use it to come up with ideas like the Field of Dreams game.
Yes.
You're like, let's go play a game in the Bull Durham minor league stadium in North Carolina, wherever. And that lets you make all of these series become events. Now, the key here, and this is important to remember, is that this will never happen in 100 billion years. And the reason it will never happen in 100 billion years is because all of the franchises are forfeiting revenue from their home games. So I wonder if there's some way that you can come up with some kind of revenue plan.
Well, sure.
That lets those teams.
But isn't that easy?
Them
first of all, I don't care about the owners.
Oh, of course I don't care.
Who cares? But you could create a television package specific for this and split that money, right? Like that would make up the revenue, if not. I mean, obviously they want more revenue, but it would certainly make up lost revenue for these games.
The summer barnstorming tour would be the highlight of the whole year.
Oh my
without
God.
question.
Everybody would be talking about it. The Amazon Apple barnstorming tour of baseball.
Let me ask you a question. If you, like, for the average fan, the person who is not you or me, you or I.
Yes.
You say to them, okay, 2 options for you. 1, you can buy for like whatever it is, $299, a package where you watch every Major League Baseball game.
Right.
From beginning to end.
Yes.
In every market. Or for $199, you can buy this package where you get to see every team play in the weirdest places in the world. But it's only like you're only going to get like, 22 games instead of like 5,000.
Right.
What are you spending your money on? You're absolutely spending your money on the summer barnstorming.
No question. I mean, especially if you're saying it's like $59 or $99, just for those 2 weeks.
It's a pay-per-view level of money. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible for that. It would be great for the game, which is completely like surrendered all efforts to grow baseball in America with the way they're treating the minor leagues and the way that they've done all of these things. It would be an incredible way to
Oh, that's such a good point. Wait, that's a great point. MLB has absolutely kicked hundreds of American small towns and cities in the face.
Right.
By shutting down all these minor league teams. And now you're going to bring Major League Baseball back to places like that crave the game.
Yes.
I didn't even thought of that. That's amazing. This is an even better idea than I thought it was.
This is such a great idea. You could sell it so easily. People would lose their minds for it everywhere, all over the world and all over the country. I mean, just could you imagine what it would mean to Omaha, Nebraska for a 3-game real series between the Cubs and Royals that is played in Omaha, Nebraska, where the College World Series being played? What would that mean to that community? They would love it.
Also, they're talking about expanding. They're talking about expanding into places like Nashville. So guess what, Nashville? You've got a year to prepare. Host a 3-game series between put the Red Sox Yankees series there, right?
Absolutely.
Move the Red Sox Yankees series to Nashville or the Dodgers Giants or the Cubs Cardinals or whatever.
Or San Antonio or Portland, all these places that want baseball, and all these little communities and all these places around the country. You could do an incredible job with all of these different places. And the other element of this is that I think would be just incredible for baseball is it breaks up this monotonous season. Who watches baseball in July except for us? Except for like the hardest of core baseball fans, and you watch your local team or whatever. But who there's no connection to those games anymore, like there used to be. And back when it used to just be about who went to the ballpark, it wasn't most of these games weren't even on television. And so this is we are giving such a gift to Major League Baseball here.
We really are. This is legitimately a great idea. I will also say that right now, so Bill Simmons did a thing, and Kurt Goldsberry did a thing about the NBA schedule on their podcast recently that I thought was so smart. They basically, like, with the help of this class that Goldsberry teaches, did this analysis of like, what do we do to this schedule?
Yeah.
The unanimous answer was make fewer games, which will never happen, but fewer games,
right?
And also start it 6 weeks later. Because right now, the NBA season starts basically a month after the football season starts.
Right.
And competes with football for like 3 months.
3 months.
Forever.
It's true.
It's all October, November, and December.
Yep.
And then into January with the playoffs, right? So 4 months. So basketball isn't clear of football until February, right?
So mid-February,
So instead of October 13th or whatever, it's like start this, basically December 1st.
Yeah.
And be like,
you could really even start it up. You could make it Christmas as your starting point. Like you could literally.
That was their point.
That's their big thing. Yeah.
And then you're pushing the schedule into, instead of the finals being the first week of June, now the finals are going to be mid-July.
Yep.
But guess what? You'd rather compete with baseball, mid-season baseball, than you would with football. So like, get out of the way of football and get more into the way of baseball. And if you're baseball, what you have to be thinking is, what do we have in the longest season that exists in sports? goes from mid-March now all the way into almost November.
Yep.
What do we do to make it interesting instead of monotonous?
Yes.
And one of the things you can do is break up the season with interesting events, which they've started to do, right? Field of Dreams game, Negro League stadiums, and this and that, whatever. But guess what? The All-Star game isn't one of them anymore. That doesn't count. No one cares. No one wants it.
No.
And you also now have a mega weapon in Shohei Ohtani.
Yes.
You deploy Shohei Ohtani as an effective weapon against monotony.
Yeah.
And they did it. They sent him to Tokyo and he hit a home run because every time the spotlight is on that guy, he does something incredible, which is amazing. But if you right now said, guess what? If they had a drawing right now and were like, guess what? Portland, Oregon, or Nashville, Tennessee, or whatever, Anchorage, Alaska, or Maui, Hawaii, or Barcelona, Shohei Ohtani is coming. Yeah. He's coming. The Dodgers are going to play the freaking Rangers in a 3-game series in Barcelona from July 7th to 10th. All of Europe will lose its mind. It would be so happy. And that suddenly the game, the countdown would be on and people would be arranging their vacations to go see him.
Absolutely.
And it would be it's like a stimulus. There's just a stimulus for the game that the monotony of the schedule does not allow for.
Yeah. I mean, it would help grow the game in ways that are hugely important, I think, for baseball, particularly here in the States. But more than that, it's exactly right. If you were a business, as you are, if you were a CEO of a major company, as you are,
which I am.
Yeah, of course. And you were said, okay, you're now in charge of baseball, purely business. You don't, there's no, your job is to make baseball grow.
I'm Theo Epstein.
You're Theo Epstein, but you don't like baseball. you have to, I want you, you have to be the coldest, hardest thinking about just purely from a business.
How do I grow this product?
All I'm looking for is they've given me a product. I've grown all these other products, so I'm known for it. How do I grow it? You would look and you go, okay, here are my assets. Here's what I've got. I've got all of this, all of these games. I've got this season. I've got this history. I've got Shohei Ohtani, right? You would look at your assets. If you were doing it from that perspective, is there a less effective way to use Shohei Ohtani than Major League Baseball is using him?
No.
Right? There would from a business standpoint, there's literally, they just okay, listen, you are now a member of baseball. You will go where your team goes. We will go to Tokyo, but we'll go before the season even starts when it's not even a big deal.
You're on a famous franchise whose games start at 10 p.m. on most nights when the East Coast is already asleep.
That's right. Yeah. So, and look, there's some things you can do and some things you can't do, but wouldn't you try to find every way? So could you imagine if you talk about the draft day? So you could do the draft day in so many different ways. The draft day could be the teams drafting, not the cities drafting. It could also be the city.
Oh, good point.
Right. So you could even have it okay, so with the first pick in this draft, it's Tulsa, Oklahoma won the first pick in the draft through the lottery. All right, let's go to Tulsa. We want the Dodgers, right? Everybody would be predicting who they would pick. Obviously, they'd pick the Dodgers because they want Shohei to come or whatever. Or maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they'd shock everybody because Tulsa is a big Texas Rangers city or something. And they're we're taking the Rangers, And I mean, I just think that would create so much excitement around everything.
What this really comes down to, very obviously, is that for people like you and me, coming home on a Tuesday in June and flipping on the TV and watching, being oh, Corbin Burns is pitching.
Right.
That's something that we get excited about.
Yes.
We are in the extreme minority.
Extreme.
We are in the top, what would you say, 10th of 1% of baseball fans?
Yeah, I mean,
probably?
Look, Sarah Langs is above us. There are not many others above us.
So Kirkjian's above us, probably.
And Sarah Langs. Did I tell you, by the way, about my Tim Kirkjian thing that's happening?
No.
I have not announced this yet. So Tim Kirk.
Wait, this is a Poscast exclusive?
Poscast exclusive. You're getting a Poscast exclusive. Tim Kirkjian, a couple of weeks ago, I think I did mention this on the podcast, was inducted into the Stratomatic Hall of Fame.
I mean, what a sentence. What a sentence you just uttered.
As by the way, as he should. I mean, in fact, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. There was a Stratomatic Hall of Fame without Tim Kirkjian in it, right?
What are the qualifications to get inclusion in the Stratomatic Hall of Fame?
I think you just have to be Tim Kirkjian. I don't know if there are any qualifications that are beyond that. I think.
But is it like spreading the gospel of Stratomatic?
I think it's contribution to baseball, but also specifically contributions like you have to be a Stratomatic player or love Stratomatic or whatever. And he's written about Stratomatic. So in my newsletter, I congratulated Tim for the very deserving choice. But I also said, but there's no doubt in my mind I could beat Tim Kirkjian in Stratomatic baseball.
Oh, I love where this is going.
Oh, it's going. So at the end of this month, Stratomatic is setting it up for the big matchup.
Oh my God! All right, how is this happening? Are you going to be in the same city?
We are not. We're going to do it on Zoom, and I think we're going to record it. It's going to be recorded, so we'll be able to put it. I've asked if there's a way to stream it live, and because I mean, obviously that's what people want. The people want to watch us play Stratomatic live.
We have to talk about this because I think it has to stream live, and I think you've got to try to get Joe Buck to call it, or Boog Shambi. I think you might need Boog Shambi to call the game.
I might need Boog to join in on this. Yes.
Where does Tim live? Does he live anywhere near you?
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure. I think Tim might. Does Tim live in New York or?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm sure. I think we're both on the East Coast. I think.
I think we need to take a step back here. I think we need to I think instead of zooming it, I think we need to figure out if the two of you are going to be in the same place.
Yes.
If your natural travels are going to take you to the same city.
Yes.
And then I think we need to rent a space that has lights and microphones and maybe some risers for the audience.
Yes.
And then I think maybe we need to get Boog Shambi to call the game in real time. And I think it might need to be a World Series, and it might need to be best of 7. I think this demands a slightly more intense approach than I think we're gonna zoom it and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have let Stratomatic pretty much handle how this is going. I've let them handle the.
Well, I'm sure that if we were saying to Stratomatic, we want this to be a bigger event, they would be happy to.
I would suspect so. Yeah, I would definitely think that they would want to do it. And the question is, okay, so if we were planning this out, do we want Boog? Do we want Benetti?
Oh, I mean,
or both.
Maybe both. Maybe you just have to fight it out. The two best baseball play-by-play guys, both doing the game. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, either one. They're both friends of the podcast.
Yeah,
they're both been on the podcast. Both incredible voices for the game.
Yes.
I think you could do either one or both. You could also do the thing where Boog calls the first three innings, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jason Benetti for innings 46.
Yes. So this is so you think I need to go back to Stratomatic and say, yeah, look, let's do this, but we've got to make it bigger.
I think there are a lot of options here, and I think that we should think about them before we just jump willy-nilly into this thing where you do it on Zoom. But I think let's do that offline.
Yes.
Well, we're going to go to our 1990 Oscar picks in a second, because we've already fixed baseball.
We fixed baseball.
We've only been talking for 29 minutes. We've fixed baseball, and you've issued a podcast exclusive about you playing Stratomatic with Tim Kirkjian. This is shaping up to be one of the most eventful podcasts of all time.
Yes. I think, like I say, I think other than our vegetable basketball team, I'm not sure that we've ever had a moment quite like this.
I worry about Eggplant's mobility. Is that what you said?
I question Eggplant. I question the mobility of Eggplant. Yeah. Yeah. No, there. And by the way, I kind of thought our fruit baseball team was at least as good as the basketball team seems to have lasted with people longer. With
fruit baseball team was good though.
It was good. It was good. We've never done a football team. We've never done a football team of
food
items.
If people have ideas for that, you can let
yeah,
Joe
I mean,
I
think it feels to me like based on what we usually get, people are going to be like, all right, pizza toppings as a football team, I think is what we're going to get.
I honestly wish that I remembered more details of the draft. You know what you should do?
Yeah.
You should somehow collect, maybe people can send this in, or maybe you can do your own research. I think we should start some archival pages.
Oh, there you go. I like this.
We should have, like, for the record, here was the baseball team of vegetables. Here was the football team of fruit. Here's some drafts that we did in the past. Because all this stuff, it's very important information.
It is. It's hugely important, and it could get lost in today's.
It might get lost. We need like a Library of Congress type organization to keep track of all the very important things that we say and go over. But I would like it if there were, for our own purposes, if there were some kind of source, if there were some kind of research page that just kept the basic.
We will start putting that together. I know we'll have some people out there that will happily send us in all of this information, as they tend to do. In fact, I think I sent it to you. We've not used it yet. But did somebody sent in music for your for Mike comes up with a segment? What do you think of that?
That's a new segment. Yes, someone wrote a theme song. It's very exciting, which we might if I don't have, I wish it should have done it this time. It should be called Mike Fixes Baseball.
Yeah,
or Mike and Joe Fix Baseball.
Mike and Joe Fix Baseball. Well, we didn't know we were going to fix baseball before we started.
That's the thing. It just flowed out of us. It wasn't a preconceived. I did have the idea for the international break, but then it became so much bigger in our discussion.
Oh.
I didn't understand that that's what you and I would be doing today, is fixing the game we love.
But we did. We fixed it. I mean, look,
we really did.
Look, at this point, what else can we do? We fixed the game, and I mean, I don't know what Rob Manfred just.
What do you want from us, Rob?
What else do you want from us? We can't do everything. We've already fixed your game.
We can't play the games too.
We can't fix them and play them. I mean, that's a lot. All right, it is time for our 1990 re-POScars, where we give out Oscars to movies from way back 25 years ago in 1990.
25 years ago, 1990.
It's amazing.
Just incredible.
That's so bad. So we've given out our POScars for 1988 and 89 the last couple of weeks. And now we are up to 1990, which was kind of an interesting movie year. So I will give you, as I do at the beginning of these things, what movies won the actual Oscars in 1990. And of course, these were the 1991 Oscars, because this is 1990 movies. The movie, well, I'll start with supporting. Supporting actor was Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Supporting actress was Whoopi Goldberg for Ghost. She won the supporting actress, which was great. The actress was Kathy Bates for Misery. The actor was Jeremy Irons for Reversal of Fortune. Did you ever see Reversal of Fortune? You saw that?
I did.
Yeah, I saw that. And then the best director was Kevin Costner for Dances with Wolves, and that was also your best picture was Dances with Wolves. So as we get started on the re-POScars, first of all, sort of general judgment about the 1990 Oscar-winning movies. How do we feel about those selections?
Well,
how have they helped?
I would say that part of the re-POScars is to right the wrongs that happen sometimes regarding people give awards for performances or movies that then, like, within a couple of years, everyone's forgotten they exist.
Right.
And you're trying to say, like, no, these are the movies. By doing the re-POScars, looking back 25 years all the way to 1990, you get to say, like, what has stood the test of time, right?
Exactly. That is the point. And very little of this has stood the test of time in my mind. I don't believe...
I mean, I would say that Goodfellas
for sure has
Goodfellas, Misery, Dances with Wolves, Ghost, they're at least movies that like are still watched, right?
This is Dances with Wolves still watched? I don't know. Is that true?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
No, it's
now,
famous,
I thought of
but
Dancing
no
with the Wolves and Reversal of Fortune as movies that have disappeared from the face of the earth.
I mean, again, it's been 25 years.
I mean, as you would expect, most movies you would expect to disappear from the earth. But the idea of the Oscars, over 25 years, you're going to lose some of this. But I think I think it's a two-part thing. One are movies that have blown up over those 25 years, that have become iconic movies over those 25 years, which there are quite a few from that year. But the second thing is also to for people that at the time you thought, oh, this is a transcendent, immortal movie or transcendent, immortal performance, and it turns out it is not. It is really of the time and whatever. So I think we start with supporting actor. And I've got some choices that I've come up with, and I will throw them to you. I think Goodfellas has stood up incredibly well. I think Goodfellas is every bit as big and great and considered as great. In fact, I think as we go forward, I think at the time a lot of people thought it was a disgrace that Dances with Wolves won over Goodfellas at the time. As time has gone on, I think that is become clearer and clearer.
Been borne out.
But the guy I thought of in that, look, and Pesci's going to end up being my guy anyway. I think he's right. They got the right one. But Paul Sorvino was incredible in that movie. Just absolutely incredible, I thought, in that movie. Others that I liked from movies that I just particularly liked, I really liked the movie Avalon.
Avalon's good.
Avalon's good, right? And Lou Jacobi is the problematic brother who ends up breaking up the family because of he shows up late on Thanksgiving and he doesn't and they start without him and it ends up breaking up the family. And it's a really, really good movie. So I liked him as a supporting actor. I'll tell you who I liked as a supporting actor. It was one of the biggest movies that year, if not the biggest movie that year, was Pretty Woman. And I love that Hector Elizondo shows up in every one of those movies. And he's always delightful. He's just delightful in every one of those movies. And it's a true supporting role. But I really liked him in that movie. And then sort of as a special honorary re-POScar, I'd like to give a re-POScar to the great Robert Duvall for whatever that was that he did in Days of Thunder, because that is one of the most remarkably weird and fun and interesting performances I've ever seen.
All good choices. I'm going to add a couple others onto the pile. Whoever you think is the supporting actor between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford in The Hunt for Red October.
I've come to this. I've actually come to this. Okay. I think Sean Connery is the supporting actor, and he is definitely on my list because they didn't even try with the accent.
It's so funny. It's one of the great movie choices of all time. Is they do two things. One is he starts speaking in Russian, the camera pushes in.
Yes.
And then pulls out and he's speaking English, which is a device that says, like, okay, when you hear these people speaking English,
they're speaking Russian.
Imagine they're really speaking Russian. Very effective tool. I've never seen that done again.
No.
I'm sure it has been, but like to me, in my mind at least, that's the first time it was done.
It was kind of brilliant because they were talking English to each other, but they weren't understanding each other. That was like later in the movie.
But then you have everyone else on the submarine, the Russian submarine, speaks English with a Russian accent, and Sean Connery speaks English in a Scottish accent, and no one cares because it's Sean Connery and everything's fine. And we all get it. We all agreed. We all looked around and we nodded to each other in the theaters like, we're good with this, right? Great.
Everybody's like, great.
And then, but I think you're right. I think he's the supporting actor. I think there's a couple performances in the movie Tremors, a movie I truly love.
Oh, yeah.
That are great. Michael Gross in a very small role doesn't quite rise to the level of supporting actor, is extremely funny as that guy was in everything he was ever in. And Fred Ward, I think, is great in that movie.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to nominate Kevin Bacon for lead later. But
I think that's right.
I think pretty much everyone who was in Goodfellas should get nominated.
Yes.
And then there's one other one. And then it depends. I don't think. Well, both. I think I would nominate both actors from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Gary Oldman and Tim Roth.
Yes.
I would sort of I don't know if either of them is a lead or either of them is supporting or whatever, but that movie version of that play, which is a famous, great, wonderful play,
yes,
is really good. And they added stuff for the movie to the play. Tom Stoppard wrote it, and they added stuff which usually is a disaster, but because he also wrote the screenplay, it's great.
Yep.
That movie's really wonderful, and those two guys are really great in that movie. So I wanted to add.
They're great, and that does remind me that you want to talk about every single person. I think John Polito, Steve Buscemi, John Turturro, everybody from Miller's Crossing as a supporting actor, every single one of them was fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. I just, and of course, they all pretty much ended up being in every Coen Brothers movie. So, but this was. Right. This was the sort of, it wasn't their first movie, but it was sort of the original version of those guys. And they were all absolutely fantastic. Every one of them deserves a re-POScar nomination.
I don't know if there's anyone from Wild at Heart who, I guess it'd be Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
That movie is insane, as all David Lynch movies were.
Yes.
It's not my favorite David Lynch movie, but it is, there are, as always, some of incredibly indelible and memorable moments and scenes in that movie. And I would throw either Crispin Glover, I guess, or Willem Dafoe in there as supporting actor.
Very good. Yeah. No, very good. All right. For supporting actress, I feel like Whoopi Goldberg's performance has held up fine. I actually think that's a very, and look, at the end of the day, I'm giving Pesci the supporting actor. Like that's one of the most iconic performances in the history of movies, right? And I'm happy with Whoopi Goldberg, but a couple others that I thought, Lorraine Bracco in Goodfellas is just, so
Karen.
Good enough that it literally led to an entire new role for her, right? It's unbelievably good. And then Marcia Gay Harden in Miller's Crossing is just fantastic, just utterly one of the more iconic Coen Brothers characters, I think, actually is her.
That's certainly of the early days. Yeah,
certainly of the early days. Yeah. So I like those two, and I like Whoopi. I think all of those are good. Oh, and one other I think that we have to have is because we haven't even mentioned it yet. I think that why am I losing her name? The mom from Home Alone has to be nominated to support.
Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara has to be nominated.
Of course. Yes, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Those are good choices. It's a stronger year for supporting actor, I think, than supporting actress.
I agree.
I don't know. There aren't other. There's the early '90s. Still a pretty bad. Like you look at movies that are memorable and good, like Presumed Innocent.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, okay, that was like a pretty big deal, that movie. And his wife is Bonnie Bedelia, who's great and was always great and everything she does.
Yes.
And it's like it's an utterly thankless part where she's just
totally
hangs out and is like, oh geez, I hope my husband's not guilty. And then at the end it's like, I did it because I'm a jealous woman who can't control her emotions. And everyone was like, well, that checks out. That is how women behave. Like
women for you. That's women for you.
It's pretty slim pickings for some of these roles here.
That's why I think Marcia Gay Harden's performance stands out, because
Marcia Gay Harden and Catherine O'Hara as a always funny, always great mom who is like losing her mind because she left her kid alone.
Yes.
Good performance.
Excellent.
I mean, I guess if Laura Dern isn't lead actor for Wild at Heart, I would nominate her.
Ooh, you could.
She's probably lead.
Lead, but you could. She could be nominated for supporting. Yeah, that's good. Right. That's a good one. All right. For main actor, I think. Look, Denzel in Mo Better Blues is fantastic. I think he's terrific. I think you've got to think about Ray Liotta from Goodfellas, right? That was kind of ended up being kind of thankless for him because he was surrounded by so many of the legends of film. But he was fantastic. That wasn't his first movie, but he was not a big deal yet, right? Like I think that movie is the movie that sort of set him going.
I think that's right.
Armin Mueller-Stahl from Avalon, he carries the movie. He's the main guy. He's the one that came to America, and he's, I think, absolutely great. I think Gabriel Byrne from Miller's Crossing is incredible. And then super duper special mention, I think, for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was both Total Recall and Kindergarten Cop that
in the same year.
Same year. I mean, that's
one of the great years in acting history. I mean, to be in both of those movies in 1 year.
And truly, not ironically, truly fantastic in both of them. Like truly, absolutely fantastic in both of them. But I think your winner, absolutely. And by the way, Harrison Ford in Presumed Innocent was very, very good. I thought he was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly the winner is Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. I don't even know that anybody else should even be nominated.
He's the winner. He's the obvious winner. I would also throw in Baldwin for Hunt for Red October.
Yes.
I would throw in Kevin Bacon for Tremors.
Yes.
A truly great movie.
Truly great.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. I would throw in, I think, Danny Glover for Predator 2.
Ooh.
Because Predator 2 is a terrible film in which the Predator somehow gets to Los Angeles. He goes to Los Angeles. And Danny Glover, who is just always great, somehow manages to keep a straight face while battling the Predator in the city of Los Angeles. And just for not constantly like bursting out laughing and looking at the camera and shrugging and being like, I don't know.
Like Macaulay Culkin does. Yeah.
He offered me a lot of money. It's truly amazing that he gets through the film without just absolutely breaking the reality of the film.
Yeah.
I would, and Nick Cage in Wild at Heart, I would also throw in.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that's very good. But congratulations to Macaulay Culkin. By the way, winning awards well before his brother. I mean, like really should have been winning those awards. Actress is a very interesting thing to me because of what you just said, which is there just weren't that many great roles for women. I mean, look, Kathy Bates is great in that role,
great.
Right?
Yep.
She's totally great and a deserving winner. I don't know what to make of Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. I mean, it was just such an iconic role that I think you just kind of have to include it in there. My winner, well, I also, let me mention another little movie that I think was actually pretty great in a very, very quiet way, which was Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. And Joanne Woodward was with
I
Joanne
don't think
Woodward.
I've ever seen that.
Newman. Oh yeah, it's really, it's very, you know, it's deliberate. It's that kind of movie, but she's so good in it. But the winner for me, the best actress in there, and his movie we have not mentioned yet, is Angelica Houston in Grifters.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What a role, what a performance, what a bleak movie that is. And Annette Bening's in it too, and she's fantastic. But
we probably should have thrown Annette Bening in for supporting
for Grifters,
and Cusack for
Cusack deserves. I think so too. They're all amazing in it. But that's a bleak movie, isn't it?
It's really intense. Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, we forgot Winona Ryder for Edward Scissorhands.
Oh yeah.
And Depp. I think Depp probably
does. Depp deserve it. I mean, he had to walk around with scissors as hands.
It was the movie where people were like, "Oh, maybe that guy's got something."
Yeah, that's true.
Like maybe he's complex. He's not just like 21 Jump Street guy.
Yeah.
And that is obviously iconic.
It's iconic. By the way, undoubtedly the most awarded Poscar actor of all is Winona Ryder. We just realized how underappreciated Winona Ryder was throughout her entire early career. My God.
Yeah. Yep. The Grifters does rule. I had it as a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, and I believe that. Well, should we go to Best Picture now?
We can go to Best Picture. Yeah, Best Picture. We'll do Best Picture and Best Director together. So for Best Picture, I think obviously the ones we've mentioned. I think obviously Hunt for Red October, Avalon. I think Awakenings deserves at least a mention. It was just kind of a weird.
I think it's like one of those Oscar baity movies where I I don't think anyone's rewatching Awakenings.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. I thought it was good at the time. Edward Scissorhands.
It's good. It's good performances.
Yeah, good performances. Edward Scissorhands. I think Cinema Paradiso is a great movie from that year that is sort of held up. I'm going to throw in just a little mention of Milo and Otis. Just a little mention of Milo and Otis. And Home Alone. I mean, I think Home Alone is the movie that probably has lasted the years more than any of the others. So those are mine. And I know Tremors. You mentioned Tremors. Obviously, that's, I think, got to be nominated.
Love Tremors.
Grifters is it's great. But I don't know how much Grifters has lasted. Do people still watch the Grifters?
I don't think so in the same way that we're talking about. I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know what? I wish I could award a Best Picture nominee, but I can't quite. Is La Femme Nikita, the original?
Oh
yeah. Luc Besson movie, was so cool.
Yes.
I remember seeing that at this tiny theater in my hometown of West Hartford, Connecticut. Actually, not even in West Hartford, in another town. I think it was at the Trinity College Movie Theater, because it was like, this is a foreign film.
Yes.
And I was like, what is this? It sounds boring. And it was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Like, what the hell? And it was so great. It hasn't quite stood the test of time in the same way.
But hasn't it though? It has not as a movie itself, but as a genre creating.
As a genre, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is everything.
All right, you know what? Screw it. It's my re-POScars. I'm giving it a Best Picture nominee. Thank you, Joe, for waking me up.
Yes.
I would absolutely nominate Tremors. I would absolutely nominate The Hunt for Red October.
Yes.
I gotta say, I think Ghost kind of has to get a nomination.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of standing the test of time, the Unchained Melody.
Oh yeah, that whole
sexy pottery situation, and just Whoopi Goldberg's performance, fantastic. I would definitely nominate Wild at Heart, and then I would definitely nominate Home Alone, and then Goodfellas might be your winner just because
I think it's the best movie of that year.
Yeah,
I think it is. By the way, are we just going to completely overlook Swayze's performance in Ghost? I mean, we're not even going to give him a nomination. He's got to get a nomination.
Let's go back and give him a nomination. He's great.
I'm okay with not giving a nomination to Demi Moore. I thought like that.
I think she's really good.
You do?
Yeah.
I think that was just really good. It was not a great character.
Well, again, roles for women were largely thankless, but I thought that because she's mostly just like, I'm sad. And then meanwhile, Patrick Swayze gets to be a ghost, and that creepy guy on the subway gets to like have this electrifying performance, and Tony Goldwyn gets to like be huge and like.
What about like, Tony Goldwyn as a supporting actor? Does Tony Goldwyn deserve it?
Yeah, he's just like a sleazy.
He's just a sleazy guy. Yeah,
and Demi Moore just walks around and goes like, "Oh, geez, wow, this is hard because my husband died," and it's totally thankless. But I think she's really believable in that.
Yeah. And she just carried. She always has so much charisma and character. But Patrick Swayze for sure.
I would also say special re-POScar nominations go to everyone in Flatliners, because Flatliners was the movie where you were like, it was basically like sort of Brat Pack 2 was forming.
Right.
It was like Kevin Bacon and Julia Roberts and Kiefer Sutherland and all these like, and Billy Baldwin and all these guys and ladies. Hope Davis is in that movie.
Wow.
Who were like, oh, this is the next generation of like 20 something hot stars.
Right.
And I believe it came out maybe right after Pretty Woman. So Julia Roberts was everywhere.
Yes.
You were just like,
yes.
Oh, and it announced Julia Roberts as a person that was going to matter for the next however many decades.
25 years.
Yeah.
No, it's wild. No, that's good. That's very good. All right. I'm going to combine our POScar achievement in technology award, which we give with my one last meaningless thing. I'm going to combine them because the POScar achievement for technology award goes to the person who invented those little spike things that you have to drive over to go into a rental car facility that
the ones where you can't back up.
You can't back up or you'll blow a tire, but if you drive forward, it'll just smoothly go down. So that, I think that, congratulations, they get the 1990 POScars. I don't know when that was invented or by who, and I don't really care, but they get the 1990 POScars for technology. And that leads to my one last meaningless thing, which is I have never, ever driven over one of those without freaking out. Never.
Oh, 100%.
Never. Not one time have I driven over those without thinking, oh, yeah, this is not going to work this time. I'm going to blow my tire for sure.
100%. I'm always convinced that somehow I'm driving over it the wrong way in that moment.
Yeah, it's scary. It's a scary little piece of it's never happened. I've never blown a tire, but it's scary every single time.
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah.
My one last meaningless thing is that one of the movies that came out in 1990 was The Freshman.
Oh,
Matthew Broderick.
I love that movie in its own weird way.
So The Freshman,
yes,
is a movie in which Matthew Broderick plays a guy who's like, it goes to NYU,
yes,
or something, and he needs money, and he accepts a job with a mobster. And
well, wasn't he sort of kidnapped at the beginning? Like somebody stole his
someone steals his stuff and he has to get it back and he needs money to get it back or whatever.
Right.
But the point is that Bruno Kirby, I think,
is
Bruno
the guy
Kirby's
who stole
dad,
it.
Is basically his Don Corleone. It's Marlon Brando, and he's literally just doing Don Corleone, but sort of comedically, in this weird way.
Yes.
And I had this crazy memory come back to me as I was looking up our re-POScars.
Yes.
Which was that I went to see The Freshman when it came out. So I was 14 or something. And I was watching it and I was just like, what is this guy doing? This is the weirdest performance I have ever seen. All I hear about is Marlon Brando's this great actor, and he's being so insane. How is this guy everyone's consensus best actor ever who ever lived? And then I was like, I don't get this. And I watched Marlon Brando, I think, go on the Tonight Show or Letterman or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, tell us about the movie. And he was like, well, it's Marlon Brando. He's the greatest actor who ever lived. And in my head, I was like, no, he isn't. And then he was like, and of course, obviously the whole thing is sort of an homage to The Godfather, which I had never seen.
You had never seen.
And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I went and watched The Godfather. I rented The Godfather from like Blockbuster. And then I was like, okay, now I get The Freshman. Like that was my thought. That was my thought when I saw the greatest film ever made. Was this is really helping me understand The Freshman.
Which is so many people have seen The Godfather to put The Freshman in context.
Just to put The Freshman into perspective, yeah.
The great thing about The Freshman is, by the way, I love that movie. I
remember it being good.
I love Penelope Ann Miller in it. I loved I loved everybody in that movie.
I believe, but for the record, I then went back and watched The Freshman again
and liked it,
and then was like, "Oh, this is so funny. This is great. I get this now."
Yeah. It's the weirdest movie in that. I mean, for those of you who have not seen it and will never see it, the idea is that they are cooking endangered species. Like that's the theme of
it's like a black market endangered species thing where they're gonna like eat a Komodo dragon. so
all of that is like crazy, and the whole thing is crazy. But what I really remember about that movie was Brando hated it. Like Brando came out immediately, even before the movie came out, to tell what a piece of garbage that movie was, which is, that's probably not what you want as a director, after you cast Marlon Brando, for him to just bash the movie. And then I saw the movie and I'm like, Brando's just wrong. This movie is fantastic.
Good.
It's really, really funny and fun. So so baseball fixed the game the way we told you. Strato, we'll talk about how we're going to redo our Tim Kurkjian matchup. And everybody else, just go watch The Freshman. Go rent The Freshman, find it, and watch it.
One last meaningless thing within this last meaningless thing is I'm just looking at the IMDb page for The Freshman now. Do you know what Matthew Broderick's character's name is?
No. What is his name?
His name is Clark Kellogg.
What? They were just like
Clark Kellogg.
Clark Kellogg.
So I guess he's a NYU film school student who joins with a mobster to stop a ring of black market importers from eating a Komodo dragon, and I think he calls March Madness games for CBS.
He former Ohio State basketball player named that was called Special K. Yeah, Clark Kellogg. That's bizarre.
That's wild.
Oh, if that doesn't make you want to go see The Freshman, I don't know what will. So, yeah. Mike, all right, we did it. Next week, big baseball preview, 98.6% accurate. We'll do that next week.
And we will finally announce the winners of our of our raffle. Yeah.
We thought we would save it for our big baseball preview. So with that, Mike, as always, thank you.
Thanks for having me.